In the headlines, reps inaugurate 21 members ad hoc committee on rivers oversight. Nigeria's inflation soars to 24.23% in March. Gunmen abduct worshippers on Lokoja mountain. And on the foreign scene, 13 million people displaced as Sudan war crisis enters third year. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Fatima Ahmed Musa. Thank you so much for joining us. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has inaugurated a special 21-member ad hoc committee to monitor political developments in Rivers State. The Speaker described the assignment as a matter of national urgency and not a routine politics. The inauguration took place in Abuja on Tuesday, with Speaker Abbas emphasizing that the committee's mandate stemmed from 2025 State of Emergency Proclamation of Rivers State and Section 11(4) of the Nigerian Constitution. The report.
Rivers State has for a while been plunged into political turmoil following a deepening power struggle between key political figures in the state. Tensions escalated when a rift emerged between the sitting governor and his predecessor, who remains a powerful political force in the region. The situation deteriorated with mass defection in the State House of Assembly, allegations of parallel legislative sessions, and attempts to impeach top state officials. This political standoff led to rising insecurity, breaking down in governance, and threats to law and order. In response, the federal government declared a state of emergency in early 2025 to prevent further instability. The National Assembly stepped in to oversee the situation, culminating in formation of a 21-member ad hoc committee to monitor developments, ensure lawful governance, and work toward restoring democratic order. The committee is tasked with ensuring the caretaker government in Rivers operates within the law, monitoring compliance with federal directives, and working towards the restoration of full democratic governance in the state.
The task before this committee is not routine. It is a mission of national significance that will serve as a litmus paste for our commitment to democratic principles and constitutional governance. The importance of the assignment places a considerable burden on the chairman and all members, as every action taken will be subject to national scrutiny.
Speaker Abbas also called for collaboration with federal agencies, security forces, and reconciliation efforts to restore peace and public trust.
I assure you that we will not disappoint you. We will not disappoint the National Assembly, and we will not disappoint you. We begin our work immediately.
With tensions still high in Rivers State, all eyes will now be on the committee as it begins its work to stabilize the political landscape and uphold democratic values.
The National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria's headline inflation rate rose to 24.3% in March. A report by the Bureau of Statistics said figure was a 1.5% marginal increase from the 23.18% recorded in February. Trust TV reports that this will be the first increase of the inflation figure since NBS rebased the Consumer Price Index earlier in the year. It explained that contributions of items on divisional level are food and non-alcoholic beverages 9.28%, restaurant and accommodation services 2.99%, transport 2.47%, housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels 1.95%, education services 1.44%, and health 1.40%. It said food inflation rate in March 2025 was 21.79% on a year basis. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, on Tuesday said imports of premium motor spirit, PMS, otherwise known as petrol, have dropped by 30 million litres from 44.6 litres a day in August 2025 to 14.7 million litres by April 13, 2025. The Chief Executive Officer of NMDPRA, Farouk Ahmed, disclosed this when he featured at the 16th edition of the Meet the Press briefing series organized by the Presidential Communication Team at the Aso Villa, Abuja. He said local supply rose by 670% within that period after contributing virtually, noting in August local plants delivered 26.2 million per day. In early April, a jump from the 3.4 million recorded in September, the first month with measurable output. He credited the surge to phase restart of the Port Harcourt refining company in late November and to incremental volumes from the modular refineries. Despite the progress, combined supply crossed the government's 50 million day consumption benchmark on only twice in the 8-month window, specifically in the months of November with 56 million and February with 52.3 million. The authorities of the Kano State Board of International Revenue Services, KIRS, have sealed the businesses' premises of 9 firms over alleged failure to remit their taxes during the sealing exercise carried out by the KIRS team. Schools and other businesses' premises were shut down. According to the enforcement team led Abbas Saidu, the action of the services became necessary as affected firms have failed to respond to several correspondences sent to them by the service, notifying them of the need to settle their outstanding tax liabilities. He added that the KIRS had obtained a court order to seal the business premises of the firm as part of the measures to ensure enforcement and compliance as stipulated in the service's mandate. According to the director, the service under the current Kano State government will continue to work to ensure that all revenue leakages are blocked for an enhanced revenue generation driven in the state. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has failed to sentence famous Kano TikToker Moja Ibrahim Kunya, who was accused of dancing on Naira notes amounting to 400,000 Naira. The EFCC had arraigned Kunya at the Federal High Court in March with 1-count charge of Naira abuse contrary to the CBN Act. However, while reviewing the facts of the case on Tuesday, EFCC counsel Lily Jacobs tendered video evidence and begged the court to convict and sentence Moja, having pleaded guilty. Justice Simon Amobida cited Section 247 1B and 356 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act and asked the prosecution of the whereabouts of the 400,000, which ought to have also been tendered as exhibit and forfeited to the federal government. The judge held that he has responsibility to protect both EFCC and the defendant in the eyes of the law, averring that the material fact presented in the case is not complete. He adjourned the matter to 13th for conviction and sentence. The president of the African Public Interest Lawyers Union, Andrew Nwanta, has called on the Nigerian Bar Association to refund 300 million received from the Rivers State government for its 2025 annual general conference, stating that doing so would protect the integrity and image of the legal profession. Speaking on Tuesday, Nwanta said the gift, although termed a gesture of support, has now become controversial due to the political development in Rivers State and the NBA's decision to move the conference from Port Harcourt to Enugu. The legal practitioner questioned the NBA's motivation and urgency in condemning the declaration of emergency rule in Rivers State, which led to the removal of Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Nwanta also raised concerns about perceived ethics bias in the NBA's choice of Enugu and as the new conference venue, questioning why it was moved to Enugu and not Abuja. In response, the chairman of the NBA 2025 Conference Planning Committee, Emeka Ogbebolo-San, stated that the 300 million was not a payment for hosting rights but an unconditional gift to support the event. Despite the rise in e-books and libraries, unshopped bookshops, also known as roadside bookshops, remain a recurring decimal on major roads across Nigeria's cities. They make their businesses and sell to those who may have little or no time to go to conventional bookshops. However, most of them are being accused of plagiarism, with some seen as constituting themselves into a nuisance on the roads. Despite these seeming concerns, many believe that they have contributed to the reading culture in Nigeria, even as experts speak on how to spot fake books and what the government can do to copyright infringement.
The business of hawking books along main roads is a thriving one in many Nigerian cities, as it is a common sight to see young men and women moving in between cars in traffic jams selling books. Beyond traffic jams, some are also seen selling along walkways. The fact that these sales outlets have been there for years is an indication that people patronize them, making many wonder why those who patronize them do so instead of buying at proper bookshops, and also wonder if these unshopped bookshops have contributed to the reading culture among Nigerians.
Out of the books that I've bought, I usually like to buy at trade fairs, that you just see people selling books rather than going to a bookshop to buy, and it's because of one reason, is that they tend to be cheaper. They contribute in a very good way to reading culture in Nigeria, because other people that don't have interest in going to bookshops, so you just see them easily and they'll be able to look through the books and purchase one or two for their reading.
It was a difficult task as we tried to speak to roadside book vendors, as they declined upon seeing our cameras. However, we were able to speak to one of them who shared their challenges and how much is needed to set up one.
The challenge is that me, I know get even capital. Now I need like 500,000.
How you start your
What I start my sales, I started with 200,000 before, but you know, say now everything don't change. It's very cost. Book is very cost. Yeah, it's book well now. One book now we get 30,000 on.
Isaka Dauda, a civil servant, speaks on why he patronized both the roadside book vendors and the conventional bookshops.
If I want to buy books that has to do with public service, I just walk to the stand here and get whatever I want to buy. For specialized book, because I'm a historian, you know, I go to bookshop to get my books. But for public service books, you know, they are very handy around here, and you know, they have latest and public service rules, promotion exercises, and all that. No, those ones you cannot be sure of what they are selling. They may parade, you know, sometimes parade fake books, you know. So I prefer to buy specialized books in the bookshop.
From Dauda's response, it is obvious that he gets his personal development and history books from conventional bookshops rather than roadside bookshops because of the originality, which many find difficult to spot. But that is not a difficult thing for Egboka Suleiman, who explained how to know a fake book and what the government can do to curb the menace of copyright infringements.
Yes, the first one is you will know it from the price, then you will know it from the publishing. Some of those pirated books, you check the quality of even the paper used in printing, you will check the cover, and you look at the font of even the printing. From that, you can easily make an assessment that this book is a pirated one and not the original one from the author. So if government can be strict in the implementation of the copyright laws, I think it's going to reduce, it may not be totally eliminated, and it will encourage authors.
The book-selling industry extends far beyond traditional brick-and-mortar bookshops. Online platforms, marketplace, and even box sales to businesses offer alternative avenues for selling books. Online vintage marketplaces like box sales for companies and even crowdfunding platforms are examples of these alternative channels. More Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Gunmen reportedly stormed a prayer session at a remote mountain site in Igbola area along Abaja Road in Lokoja, local government area of Kogi State, and abducted an unspecified number of worshippers. The incident reportedly occurred on Friday during a vigil on the mountain. A woman identified as Mary Adams Gure was said to have been rescued by men of the State Vigilante Service who got wind of the incident, mobilized to the scene and confronted the gunmen in a gun duel. According to the source, their attackers stormed the prayer ground, firing sporadically to instill fear before forcefully whisking the worshippers into the bush. The rescued woman was said to have escaped amidst chaos. The State Police Command is yet to confirm the incident. Moving on to more stories. The Vice Chancellor of the Federal University Oye-Ekiti in Ekiti State, Professor Abayomi Sunday Fasina, has been suspended following allegations of sexual harassment brought against him by a senior female university official, Folashade Adebayo. The suspension, which takes effect immediately, followed the intervention of the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, who reportedly expressed strong dissatisfaction with the initial recommendation of the university's governing council committee exonerating Professor Fasina. Sources disclosed that the committee had advised that Adebayo apologizes to the Vice Chancellor, allegedly ignoring her claims of sexual misconduct, prompted by the minister's concerned. Senator Victor Ndoma Egba convened an emergency virtual meeting of the university's governing council on Monday, April 14th. During the meeting, the council resolved to remove Professor Fasina from office, albeit under the guise of accumulated leave rather than outright suspension. Confirming the development, the university's registrar and secretary to the council, Muftau A. Ibrahim, issued a press statement on Monday to that effect. Residents of Lagos have expressed concerns regarding the federal government's proposed ban on the importation of solar panels into the country, while cautioning that the move could hinder Nigeria's progress in renewable energy. They are urging the government to first ensure a stable electricity power supply and facilitate the establishment of local solar panel production before implementing the import ban. Victoria Tokolo has more.
Many Nigerian citizens across the country, particularly residents of Lagos State, are voicing their opposition to the federal government's decision to ban the importation of solar panels. However, stakeholders within the solar energy industry view the government's move positively. They believe the intention is to convince key players, especially private companies operating in the solar sector, to explore how the country's raw mineral resources can be utilized to produce solar panels. These, they argue, will benefit the nation and contribute economic growth.
We want to make sure that all mineral resources in Nigeria is fully utilized, and Nigeria is so blessed. We are so blessed. So therefore, this is a call for the federal government that all land should be on desk. Let us go ahead and make use of all what we have, from the north to the east to the south to the west. All our mineral resources should be used, no need for importation. And for them to have banned importation, of course, I believe that they must have done their own calculation. And what is that calculation? That parties, different private sectors, should come on board. Let's do this together.
Numerous other residents in the state also shared their thoughts on the federal government's proposed import ban on solar panels.
I think they should focus more on how we will be able to produce solar panel and other things. We need to be a productive country before they start banning all those things. Banning solar panel for entering this country, why we have not done our major assignments. I think
if the government wants to ban solar panel in this country, they will have to do their own. And number one, light is not stable in this country. And number two, people that are using generator, there are too much high price of fuel. If they can do all these things to come down, everybody will enjoy this country.
I prefer to stable electricity to stable, because if the electricity is stable for this country, everybody will enjoy ourselves. Even our business will move. Our business will move, everything will move. So everything will reduce Stress will be not too much.
What I would advise the government to do is for the government to create a solution, either to maintain stable electricity, that's power, or create avenues where we can be able to develop our own internal panels, if they don't want us to be importing it. That will at least going to solve the problem, because banning it and not solving the problem of power is doing more harm than good.
The federal government's proposal to ban the importation of solar panels aims to boost local production and reduce reliance on foreign-made solar components. This initiative aligns with the current administration's broader agenda for industrialization, foreign exchange conservation, and support for domestic enterprises.
Residents of Osun have called on the state government and relevant stakeholders to intensify efforts to curb child malnutrition in the state. The call follows growing concerns over the worrisome status of malnutrition among Nigerian children in the state. Hamid Oyegbadi files in this report.
With 24.48% inflation rate in Nigeria, as at January 2025, more than 35 million Nigerian children remain trapped in a cycle of malnutrition, stunt, and waste, as most families cannot afford basic protein and healthy meals essential for children's growth and development.
If we want to prepare carbohydrate food, we must prepare carbohydrate food with protein food. Eba with efo or with obeyo and fish. Even that warabasa we call, which is commonly known everywhere, is very, very good for the children to be taken.
Most parents are worried that this may affect cognitive development of children.
When we talk of malnutrition, that is inability to feed well, especially the essential nutrients that should also be beneficial to the body system. If it is not there, the brain will be malfunctioning.
In Osun State, the wasting rate was 4.5%, while the stunting rate was 23.5%, according to the 2017 Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey. In the 2023 National Demographic Health Survey, the wasting rate in Osun State was 11.8%, while the stunting rate was 30.5%.
Presently, when the civil servants are being receiving full salary, and with the intervention of state government and UNICEF in the state on 6 to 59-month children, we are hoping that when the next survey will be conducting, the state will have better outcome in malnutrition in the state.
We provide food for our children, especially the younger ones, at the required time, so that there won't be problem. So government is taking things serious. Meanwhile, the state government says it is putting measures in place with the support of the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, to curtail malnutrition in the state. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Osogbo.
Sudan's civil war has displaced 13 million people, the United Nations reported on Monday, as conflict between the army and paramilitary rapid support forces entered a third year. The war, which erupted on April 15, 2023, has left tens and thousands dead, pushed parts of Sudan into famine, and fractured the country into warlord-run territories. On the eve of the war's second anniversary, nowhere at the stake more evident than in Darfur, where the RSF launched a new offensive last week to capture El Fasher, the last major city in vast western region still under army control. The assault began Thursday and raged until Sunday morning, targeting El Fasher and nearby displacement camps. including Zamzam and Aboshok, both of which have been struck by famine. The UN citing credible source, said more than 400 people have been killed in the latest violence. By Sunday, RSF forces claim control over Zamzam. Since then, around 400,000 people have been displaced from the camp, the United Nations International Organization for Migration said. And with that, we have come to the end of Trust TV News Update. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms for more news, programs, and documentaries. I'm Fatima Ahmed Musa. Do have a good evening.